The
Intrinsic.
art is the intrinsic thing. If you just do a painting and you don't give it a title, it's just a picture. But if you give it a title, effectively you're hinting at what it's meaning. Like your painting of water, you called it water, but okay, literally it's trying to express water. But actually, if you called it Elizabeth Bay, then people know it's a real place, and it's a place where you have been. And so this was your reaction to that real place. And it's something that, even if they don't know what Elizabeth Bay is, they could relate to other places they've been to. So it's both saying something about you as the artist and what's going on in your head, and also about them. And that's intrinsic. You haven't had to express it. You haven't had to explain it. It's coming out of the artwork. And that layering of what's up front, but also what's lying behind, implied, intrinsic to the work, is actually what makes art.
Right.
And it's the same about a film.
So it's not explicit, it's implicit.
Implicit is actually the stuff where you can also, it's open to interpretation. People, because of their life experience or their background or their gender or whatever, will have a different interpretation. And implicit stuff is open to that interpretation. Now, if you're a great artist, you can be both specific enough that there's a clear thing that you're implying, and yet be open enough that somebody can also unpack that into their own context and get something of meaning out of it, and that's art.
But you mentioned before that when someone is looking at, say, that painting, my painting of Elizabeth Bay, that they're looking at it from the artist's perspective as well as their own perspective.
Well, if you saw it, sorry, I interrupted you. If you saw it hanging in a room, there's an initial moment. This is almost like retail. There's a reason why they're going to come over there and look at it, which might be the color and the layout of it, the composition, maybe what they come over, and then they look at it as paint on a surface, and they know that it has been made by someone, that someone has made marks on paper to create that painting. If they then go to the next stage and look at the title, and then get the name of the artist, and then look at the title of the work, then there's another whole layer that comes in, which is, okay, why that painting? Why those marks on the paper? What was trying to be said? What were people trying to say? And at that point, your imagination starts to kick in, and you start to see the hidden meaning or the layering behind that picture.
Or the artist's perspective of what they were looking at.
Correct. Now, a lot of modern art, a lot of minimalist art was an attempt to actually try and strip that away completely and say, there is no meaning here. It's just white or it's just black. And I'm trying not to have any meaning. But in that, there's also implied this idea of trying to do a painting which is nihilist. Why are you trying to do a painting that's nihilist? Because you're trying to oppose the idea of implication, which is itself implying a whole set of meaning. So they couldn't escape. But there was a territory there that nobody explored, so fair enough. Go and explore that territory. But you don't see 5,000 white paintings hanging in galleries all around the world, because once it had been done, the gag's out there. You don't want to repeat it. Whereas an individual reaction to a place or a thing or a set of circumstances or whatever is what's interesting and is infinitely variable, because it's implied, each person brings their own unique journey, life journey or context to that implied thing, and then unpacks it in their own way to create something completely new. So in a sense, an artwork is almost like a portal to multiple universes, if it's done well. If there's not enough implied, or if it's not executed enough in its craft that you think that it's something that has integrity from a craft point of view or from a conceptual point of view. If it's just some twigs on the ground, then you're going to need to put those twigs on the ground in a very specific way with a very specific title, so that you are somehow creating enough material for somebody to really decide to invest in, okay, what does this mean? So I hate to say it, there's an element of retail in art, which is where you have to attract people to decide to spend some time with the artwork, and they have to believe that it's worth their while. That's just the reality of the thing. And then once that person has engaged with that artwork and said, well, what is this? Then there's an implication. If there's an implication, then I think that implication and how it unpacks in their minds is where art might happen.